Good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good
Good
morning, sir.
morning, sir.
Good morning. So I updated the example from the quadratic programming. I hope you got a chance to look at it. From your silence, it seems that you have not looked at it, but anyway, I have uploaded it. So I will just quickly go over it, what I have done. Can you see my screen with quadratic programming?
Yes, sir.
I have shown you how to find CDA. So I have tried to write it as if I'm presenting. So once you have checked that it is in this form, Cx plus x transpose dx, two options, both of them are actually KKT conditions only. One is standard terminology and another one is deriving your own KKT condition, what we were doing last time. So in standard terminology, you have to write the functions in terms of bringing the non-negativity constant also. So it becomes Ex minus b less than equal to 0 and your all the non-negativity constant, the variables x greater than equal to 0. So I is the identity matrix you can see here. And then for Ax minus b, set a multiplier lambda. For non-negativity, set a multiplier mu, just to distinguish between which one is your functional constraint and which one is your non-negativity constraint. And then you can directly use this, standard notations to write your KKT conditions. So it is showing, which simplifies simply to minus 2x transpose d, given that you have put the problem in this structure maximum. So standard structure is very important, and that is why we faced problem last time. I mistakenly started with working with another form. So if I'm working with this standard form, then this thing will hold true. Okay. So all you need to remember these three equations and you can set up. So for example, I have tried to show you if it is a minimization g x1 plus x2 less than greater than equal to 6, x1 x2 greater than equal to 0. So first I have put it in the quadratic programming standard form. So objective is maximization, constraints are less than equal to 0. You can use then write your C, D and A and directly plug in C, D, A values here. You will get these set of equations and then you apply first phase of simplex. Second one is what we were doing last time. Write your own equations, but keep in mind for writing KKT condition, we have used this standard formulation. Minimize fx such that gx is less than equal to 0. So luckily my function is in minimized form, but constraints are greater than equal to 0. So I will not touch the function. I will only touch the constraints. Had this been maximization, I had to convert into minimization. Then write your Lagrangian. Do the del L by del x1, del L by del x2, and the other, functional constraint. Only thing is in functional constraint, make it an equality, which is less than equal to, add a slack variable, make it an equality. And complementarity condition, instead of writing the functional constraint, you put lambda into s equals to 0. Others are mu1 x1 0, mu2 x2 0, all variables greater than equal to 0. So I have written the whole thing. I prefer second approach because I don't need to remember all this format, this particular format. So I prefer second approach and you are free to choose. If you remember that, you can directly use it. Both the cases, you will get the same linear and non-linear constraint. Once that is set, you will add a1, a2, a3 in all the in the equations and start solving it. Again, when I'm solving using simplex, I have used this standard notation, maximize g equals to, this is for simplex, g equals to cx, ax less than equal to b, x greater than equal to 0. Then I need to solve it like this. If you use any other simplex, standard form, you are free to use. I'm not stopping you. And then you will see as you proceed, there comes a time when lambda, mu1, mu2, all are negative. Luckily here, lambda has the highest negative coefficient, but had mu1 and mu2 had highest coefficient, we will not allow to enter them because x1 and x2 are in the basis. That ensures mu1 x1 and mu2 x2 equals to 0 because x1 x2 has a positive value, so mu1 and mu2 will have 0 value. So in 3 iterations, you will be able to solve that problem, and then final solution you can find it. So since you have not seen, look at it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Or if you have already looked at it, if you have any questions, we can I can spend another couple of minutes on this one, and then I will move to the next topic. Okay, so the only mistake which I did last time was I proceeded with this format, maximize minus G. Okay, but our KTKT conditions were derived based on minimize fx such that Gx is less than or equal to 0. So standard form is very important. Had I been using minimize G, I could have got the results last time only. Any questions? If not, just have a look at it and you can either post the questions and I will try to answer it, or we can take it next time when we. Okay, how many of you are here? Only 20. Okay, so what we have seen so far, it's a kind of exact methods we have seen so far. Now we'll look at when we are not able to find a closed form solution. And by that I mean, suppose not written. How come every day this pen size is changing? Algorithms for unconstrained optimization. So suppose your function looks like this. What method you will use to solve it? So let's try to see if dash x works or not. So 2x plus e to the power x plus 3 log x square, 3 by 1 by x cube into minus 3x square. Is that right? By minus. And then you equate it to 0. Is this correct, guys?
Yes, sir.
So can you find a solution x star in this closed form equation? So you cannot get a x star value in the closed form. Does that make sense? So that's why we use algorithms to solve such kind of problems, or more precisely numerical methods. So if you look at any typical NLP algorithm, although I've shown you this example, but most of the functions will work with either quasi-convex or pseudo-convex. So suppose your function looks something like this. So minimum happens here. Suppose this is the minimum. So how a typical nonlinear programming algorithm works? We'll start with an initial solution, typically. So whenever you are trying to find a solution which you cannot find because maybe discontinuity, not differentiable, and all those problems are there with that function. So you prefer to solve it using typical nonlinear programming algorithms. So whenever you start with a solution, you start with the initial solution. Suppose I start with x k. Okay, so initial solution xk. What do you need to do next? You need to reach here. So next you find a direction vector d k. You can say d also, but it's fine. And then, so now I'm here and I know which direction to move. What else is required to find the next point?
Step size.
Step size. What is the step size of that? How much step I will take? If I take a final step, it will take a lot of iterations. If I take a bigger steps, I will be able to make less functional evaluation, but I might miss the minimum. So step size lambda k. So suppose if I made in this direction with a step size of lambda k, I need reach to the next point xk plus 1, and then next, and then next, and then next, and I might be able to find the optimal solution. So with these three initialization, I can write my next point, or in the next iteration, my suitable point is xk plus lambda k dk. So suppose I started with x0 as 1 plus lambda was 1 and dk was in the x direction. So I was at 3. x1 will be 3 plus 1 into 1, 4, and so on. Okay, you keep doing it until, I'm talking from an algorithm perspective. So there is initialization. So you evaluate functional value at each point. So you get fxk, then fxk plus 1, and you proceed in such a way. So let's say this is my iterations. I initialized. What is the last thing? Just a second, guys. So we need to stop the solution. We need to stop the algorithm. So you keep repeating this process. So generally any algorithm you will see initialization phase, iteration phase, and then stopping. So given NLP, we can have different kind of stopping criteria. Can you name some of them based on your algorithm skills you have gained so far, or based on how it should move? Wood, all of you are still sleeping? Chai nahi mila?
It is very near to 0 with some value very close to 0, and if it is below that, then we can stop.
What that criteria should be? One could be that every time when you are making a functional evaluation, you can see if the difference is close to 0. Suppose I take point here and I take a point here. There will be hardly any difference. So if you write in terms of a algorithm, if you'll do while something is, let's say termination criteria is difference of two successive evaluation is less than equal to 0.0001, do the loop. So ideally, if you look at it, any algorithm, there are other criteria also, like delta fxk, if it is a differential function equals to 0. Exactly, we will not get 0 because we are trying to close to 0. When I say close to 0, we put numbers like 0.001 or 1 to e to the power minus 10, something like that. So what we really try to solve is finding a step size, how much I should move. If I know how much to move in a particular direction, we can solve it, which boils down to minimize f of xk plus lambda dk. So how much of step, and this lambda is very important. And if you look at this, suppose no matter what function I do, what will be the this function will be in which variable, f of xk plus lambda dk, given that I have given a direction and I know xk. This function will be in terms of f of lambda, because lambda is the only variable. I'm giving initial point, I'm giving the direction. Lambda is the only thing I'm trying to find. Does that make sense? Vinod Kumar.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense? SK I am supplying, DK I am supplying. Only thing I don't know how much of step size I should take. Because when I say a suitable step size, I do not know. This step size could be this big also or this small also, right?
Yes, sir.
So this is in one variable. So that's why we call it one-dimensional search. And even when we go for higher dimension, we will be doing one-dimensional search only. So one-dimensional search, or it is also called line search. On a line, you are trying to find a point. So first I am going to talk about single variable function optimization, and then we will go to multiple variable. Single variable optimization algorithms, and then I will go to multiple variables. Even in multiple variables, what you will do now, we will move in one direction and then the next direction. So it boils down to line search only. So in single dimension, we will see line search without derivative, and line search using derivative. Two type of methods we will see. Generally, we'll assume that it is quasi-convex function when I'm doing the line search without derivative. Using derivative, it should be at least pseudo-convex. If it is convex, you already know how to deal with it. Okay, so single variable optimization. Let me add the pages. Okay, when we do this line search, we do not try to give a optimal value, like in case of earlier when we were saying x star equals to 3 or 5 or 6. What we give is interval of uncertainty. What I mean by that is,
sir, I have one question. Sir, here in one direction we are trying to find the minimum. So we get a minimum point, and suppose in that in some other direction, that same point is a maximum point.
I mean, can you elaborate? I'm not getting. In the same direction, it can be minimum, it is, and maximum also. That's what you're saying?
No, it means using this type of algorithm, I came down and I found the point which is minimum, and my objective is to find the minimum point. But in some other direction, this point is suppose the maximum point. Then means it will again go down. Means the direction is also changing in this case.
I'm really not sure what you are talking about. I mean, I will try to draw here. So this is my minimum. I'm moving in 1 0 direction. Okay, and lambda I'm finding from here. Now what are you suggesting? Can you tell me?
Yes, sir. Sir, here the from the diagram, it is like the direction is like this is a 2D graph. I am actually talking about some 3D structure that way.
3D we will come. What we do in 3D, suppose this is the contour. Suppose I take in 1 0 direction first some suitable lambda, then in 0 1 direction I will take another lambda, then 1 0, then 0 1, and we'll reach here. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir, somewhat.
Yeah. So your question is valid for 3D, but we'll come to it. In some of the methods, what we will see that rather than doing this, we'll also take an acceleration step in this direction. And I will try to reach here directly. So yes, there are methods, but I'm still confused about minimization and maximization. What exactly you are trying to ask?
So basically, I was actually thinking that this is a parabola, and in this parabola, I mean, in case of a 3D structure, just imagine that at the bottom point of the parabola, I have another parabola, but it is the maximum point of that, and it is actually rotated 90 degrees. So that way it is.
क्या बोल रहे हो यार मेरे को नहीं समझ में आ रहा. So suppose this is the 3D graph, this is the parabola, ठीक है?
Yes.
इसका contour लिए हैं. It looks like this. How can it be minimum and maximum at the same point? I'm not getting what exactly you are trying to say.
Sir, I will send you a diagram later.
Okay, sure. Send me a diagram, and I will try to see what exactly you are. Yeah, that is the, unfortunately, had this been a class, it could have been discussed right now. But anyway, just send me a diagram, and if maybe I will discuss in the class also for the understanding of everyone if they have some similar questions. Thank you. So when we solve, this non-linear algorithms, we do not say x star equals to 3. Although we give this number, but instead of that, we give that x star lies in, suppose this is 2.8 and 3.8, lies in 2.8 and 3.2. This is what we get when we try to solve using nonlinear programming line search. What we do, we take a average point of it and give that is your x square. Okay, so in line search, input is, so I will start with line search without derivative first. But in general, line search input is your function and what we call interval of uncertainty. Going forward, I will call it IOU, interval of uncertainty, IOU, as XS and XF. This is my initial interval of uncertainty. When I say XS and XF, I will be searching for the solution between these 2 points, right? So my initial level, in fact, I should put it initial IOU as XS and XF. And what we want to do is output is final IOU, which could be something like suppose X dash and X double dash. So this is my XS and XF, and my final IOU will be X dash and X double dash. This is what we are trying to find when we are trying to use a line search. We are giving an interval of uncertainty. So the smaller this interval is, better chances of having an optimal solution in it. Does that make sense? If final interval is, so we can use this as our termination criteria also. If X double dash minus X dash is 0.0001, it is almost close to the X star. Does that make sense? Are you guys with me in terms of understanding? We are not giving a 1-point value. We are giving a range in which the solution will lie. Is this clear? Guys, if you do not respond, how would I know whether I should proceed or not? At least one ha, one no. If it is not clear, ask again. Okay, whatever you choose. I will go ahead and finish the syllabus then. Okay, so for line search kind of algorithm, when we are doing, we do not care about continuity. We do not care about differentiability. We do not care about any analytical expression of the function. We do not care about all these things. We just go ahead and start solving problem. So from a computation point of view, what is most expensive? What is most expensive for this algorithms to run? What is the most expensive computation we will be doing? Every time when we do the functional evaluation, it is a expensive computation, and more functional evaluation do, more and more it becomes costlier. That's why if I can find a solution with less iteration, if you can say, if my convergence happen in less iteration, that algorithm is superior than the other. So my focus should be that my final interval of uncertainty, that is X dash X double dash, should be as small as possible by evaluating your functional value F for a very few times. So in the line search without using derivative, we have two methods. The first one is called simultaneous search. And second one is called sequential search. In simultaneous is the most naive one. It's uniform search. I will briefly discuss about it. And then I will discuss dichotomous, which is also known as binary search. The golden section search. And third one is the Fibonacci. Okay, so starting with uniform search. Okay, I will just quickly give an overview. Suppose this is my line. Actually, whenever going forward, every time I draw a line, there is a function above it, and this is the line. And on this line, we are trying to find suitable x interval that will contain the minimum. So this will be my xs and xf. Now tell me, if a function is given to you and you do not know how it looks like, what is the most naive thing you will do to find the minimum value?
Zero.
नहीं, zero जरूरी नहीं है ना. You want to do some search, you don't want to just reach to a relation.
No, you are asking how to find XS.
No, xs and xf will be given to you for a
Okay,
function.
given to okay.
Xs
Then
and
what is the
xf
question?
are
Take
initial
average of both.
IOU. So you take average of what? Xs plus xf? This is what you are suggesting? Function could be
Yeah.
like this. Function could be like this. Function could be like this. So as name suggests, what exactly you are trying to do? Two things: simultaneous search I'm saying, and uniform I'm saying on top of it.
Sir, I can start from both the ends also.
What do you mean by both the end?
So simultaneously from like XS and then from XF.
So what exactly we are looking at? Divide the whole interval in equal number of parts to the functional evaluation. So suppose I say I plan to do n evaluations, and based on that I will try to find. Suppose that n is 2k, just keep it even number. What I will do at all these 2k points, I will do the functional evaluation. Suppose fx1, fx2. As I said, it is a very naive and useless kind of search. So, but this sometimes give you some good point to start with, so we should not ignore it. So this is how my x values are, on this xs and xf, right?
Yeah, I am having one doubt here. Is
Yeah.
that this initial IOU, the way we are from the graph, it is clear that we are taking this XS and XF two sides of the minimum point. But suppose we have chosen or we are given in such a way that both are coming to the one side of the, so suppose both are on the left side of the minimal point. So it is not that we have rightly chosen XS and XF. Then what will happen?
Yeah, generally xs and xf are given in the form that on what domain your function is defined. Okay, when a function is defined, generally we give it x1 lies between this and this. Does that make sense?
Okay, so domain minimum, domain maximum.
Yeah, x is, suppose if I give you a function fx equals to x square, where x lies between -1 and 1. So this is your xs and this is your xf.
Okay, sir. Okay.
See, it is an input, right? It is an input given to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Now to just explain this, suppose I have given you a function which is defined between 1 and 5, and I want to make, where did it go? कहाँ भाग गया? I want to do, suppose I have said n equals to 2k. If I give you that use k equals to 2, how many segments you will get here? So x1, x2, x3 and x4. Is that correct, guys? What would be the length of each segment? What would be the length of each segment?
Maximum minus minimum divided by number of segments we have done.
Give me the value directly.
1 unit.
4 by 5.
0.8, right? Fair enough. Now suppose minimum happens at, so what you will do after you have divided into n parts, you will calculate f1. When I say f1 and f5 or IOU is 1, 5, I know f1 and f5. This is how we proceed. So I will evaluate fx1, fx2 until fx4, and f1 and f5 we already know. So if x2 happens to be the minimum, what is the final interval of uncertainty?
Not sure, it may be 2 to 3 or 1 to 2.
If x2 is the minimum, what should be the final interval of uncertainty? Can you please repeat?
I'm saying it can be 2 to 3 or 1 to 2.
No, none of them. What I said, the final interval of uncertainty should contain the minimum point. Does that make sense?
Sir, 1.8 to 3.4.
Final IOU will be between x1 and x3. How much is it coming? 0.8 to 2.4. Now, do you get the idea of what is interval of uncertainty?
Sir, it should be 1.8.
Why 1.8?
Starting from 1, after 0.8, x1 is 1.8.
Oh, okay. Okay. So if you are starting from 1.8 and 3.4, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
Okay. So what you have achieved, you were first initially looking at this big of interval of uncertainty, and finally you bring it down to this interval of uncertainty where your minimum lies. So the reason I'm taking too much time to explain this, although inform search is not that important, you to understand what I mean by interval of uncertainty. Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
I'm not trying to pick one point. I'm giving my search was in this range. Now I have brought it down to this range. Now if k tends to infinity, if k tends to infinity, what happens to final interval of uncertainty where it will converge? It will almost converge to your optimal point, right?
Yes, sir.
If I start taking such a small inter k, I mean k is very light, so I have almost divided into infinitesimal small segments. So my L0 is xf minus xs. Ln, that is the final or final interval of uncertainty, is, we can say, xk plus 1 minus xk minus 1, given xk is the minimum. So can you give me in terms of L0 n and all, what is this value is ln equals to? Ln in terms of L0 n and all, what this will be? Does this make sense? Suppose this is your xk which is the minimum, you have S. No. This is your xk, this is your xk minus 1, this is your xk plus 1. What is the length of each interval we have? Given that L0 is our initial interval length, and I have divided into n points.
L by n plus 1.
What is that?
L0.
Huh?
L0 by n plus 1.
Very good. So L0 plus n by 1 in this side of the optimum, L0 by n plus 1 on this side of the segment. So total 2 L0 n plus 1. Now, how much finer ln you want? Suppose I want 0.0001. My initial length, how much is initial? And 5 minus 1, 4, right? Divided by n plus 1. From here, you can find suitable n, that how many, segments you want. Does that make sense?
Sir, it is L0 by n or n plus 1.
What is L0 by n?
Sir, instead of n plus 1, it is L0 by n, right? Number of segments is n.
But number of points is n, number of segments is n plus 1. अगर तुमको एक लकड़ी दी है और उसको एक जगह से डिवाइड किया तो कितना सेगमेंट हुआ तुम्हारे पास? Just a second.
Yes, I understand now. Okay, sir.
Okay. So number of points is 1, segment will be 2 then. And that's why this was 4. This was 4. So we were able to get that. So यहाँ से n पता चल जाएगा how many evaluation you should do to reach to this kind of resolution of your final interval of uncertainty. So having said that, any questions? This is mostly to explain you how intervals of uncertainty works. Interesting ones start here. So first I will look at in the sequential search, dichotomous search. So as name suggests, what do you think? What it would be? Let me first draw some kind of graph.
Sir, hello sir.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Sir, I have a doubt in the uniform search. If my point is lying within the interval, how will I detect? Suppose final solution is between 1 and x1 and I have taken the gap to be 0.8. Step size to 0.8. Can we identify?
Okay. From what you have understood, do you think that this kind of search can really give you a solution? Yes, it can give you. What you need to increase?
Number of points if we increase.
More evaluations you do, better results you will get. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. That I understood. Suppose in this question we have taken 0.8 step size, and we are if our solution is between x1, x2, x3, x4, then we will definitely get a solution. But if we have chosen the step size to 0.8, and in case our solution lies between 1 and x1, so then we will not get solution.
Why? We have evaluated, we started with F1, na?
Yes, sir.
So I know where is F1. So if something is between 1 and suppose this is where the solution is, you are saying.
Yes, sir.
So see, that's what I'm trying to say. You have to increase the number of points if you want to get a finer solution. If you are being no, I will only use 4 points to find a solution, you may get a suboptimal solution or near optimal solution, not the solution. See,
so what is the criteria of choosing the number of points? Sometimes
I have told you what kind of resolution you want.
Yes.
Suppose I
understood.
say 0.00001. This is my criteria. Initial length of interval of uncertainty was this n plus 1. So you can get n plus 1. From here you can take it to this side, bring this one to this side. Some 7,999, these many points you need to evaluate. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes,
Sir,
sir.
instead
Understood.
of this, can we not recursively use this? So first time we get a bound and then again we divide.
Santanu, hold. What is the name? What is the name of this search?
Uniform search.
Uniform search. So yes, we have better solution methodology. This was the initial start to introduce you to the search methods, right? You are very right. That is why now we are searching sequential search. In sequential search, we take a point, then go to the next point, and then go to the next point. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we are discussing that only now. So see, all of you, as I said, it is the most simplest one. It is not really used generally. What you can you think of where it helps us? होता क्या है कई बार you have a very big interval of uncertainty, and rest of the next methods which I am going to show, rather than jumping onto that method, get some idea about the function using this method. Does it make sense? See, you are dealing with algorithms. Algorithms needs initialization. It all depends on how good your initialization is. Many of the solution you will see depends on your initialization. So suppose if I had given you, here I have given an interval of uncertainty as 1 to 5. If I had given you 1 to 1000, things would become very complicated even for the next search methods which I am going to tell you. So make some evaluation, not a lot, so that it gives you some kind of idea about the function, and then you use the better methodology or method search method to go with it. Does that make sense? Why we still study uniform search, given that it is really not a good method to search? Agree?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So this is not a holy grail that uniform search चलाया और answer आ गया. हाँ, answer आ सकता है if it is a very well behaved function, but it can give you some insight about the function that will help you work with function later. Now, next, what we are going to see is sequential search. We are not going to divide the whole region into number of points. What we will do is we will do it sequentially. What Santanu you are suggesting? Now we will try to be more smart. So each next 3 methods, one after one another, you will see it gets smarter and smarter way to choosing where to cut it. So somebody said when we were starting this search that why don't I take a midpoint, right? So bisection method is take the midpoint, find the functional value. If whether it is less than or greater than these 2 points, I will ignore the other part. Does that make sense? So suppose ऐसे ही दिखा रहा हूं. Suppose if minimum happens on this side, I will ignore this point. Again, I will subdivide into 2 parts. If minimum happens in this side, I will ignore this part. Again, I will divide into sub part. If minimum happens on this side, I will ignore this part. This is what dichotomous search is about. But here, few things to consider. This works really only, you can try with other function also, but consider theta E1 to E1, since we are working with single variable, or R to R. to be minimized over A comma A1 comma B1, and theta is strictly quasi-convex. Otherwise, this method might not give you very nice result. Strictly quasi-convex. So let's try to first understand how we should develop algorithm for this one. So I will show you two thetas here, theta 1 and theta 2. One looks like this. And let me use another color for this one. Okay, so this one is theta 1 and this one is theta 2. Now I'm trying to use bisection method. Have you got the idea what exactly we are trying to do when we are trying to divide the whole region into two parts? This is also known as binary search. So suppose इसको थोड़ा सा यहाँ पे बढ़ा देते हैं ताकि same interval I will use. Suppose this is defined between A1 and B1. Now I need to come up with a algorithm so that I divide into half every time and then try to decide the interval. How do we do that? Is this sufficient? Just doing an plus b1 by 2? यहाँ पे अभी जो ऊपर I have shown you that A1 and B1 take the middle one. इसमें प्रॉब्लम क्या फेस करेंगे हम लोग if we proceed like this?
So both the functions have the same midpoint, so we will not understand which.
You will not be able to understand whether I should go on this side or this side, right? Had there been small deviation here that I'm evaluating between not the midpoint but a little beside the midpoint. So we need not one point to start with, but we need 2 points to start with. Does that make sense? So suppose I am taking some lambda as in mu's. So this is my mu1 and this is my lambda 1. So the way we need to proceed is for theta dash, this function theta 1, which is in black. Let me use the color so that you don't get confused when you look at the notes later. Case 2 is theta 2. So for case 1, if I'm looking at theta lambda 1 and theta mu 1, which one is greater? And I'm trying to minimize. Throughout this course, we will talk about minimization as standard. So lambda theta 1 and theta lambda 1 and theta mu 1. Which one is minimum?
थीटा mu 1.
थोड़ा सा मैं शिफ्ट कर रहा हूँ लैम्डा 1 को. Theta mu 1 is minimum. Is this correct?
Yes, sir.
थोड़ा सा चेंज करने दो फंक्शन को, नहीं तो गड़बड़ हो जाएगा सारा सेट. अभी भी मिनिमम है? नहीं. So theta mu1 is greater than theta lambda 1?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
So
sir.
your new interval of uncertainty will become equals to. So you started with A1 and B1. What would be your new interval of uncertainty?
A1 lambda 1.
See again, Panigini, try to understand. We want to
A1
give it an interval where minimum can lie, right? What you are taking, which one is the minimum? So always keep in mind Wherever you are getting the minimum, that cannot be end of your interval of uncertainty, but it should be contained in the interval of uncertainty. So your interval of uncertainty here is A1 to mu1. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Similarly, if you look at theta 2, here theta lambda 1 is greater than theta mu1. See, theta lambda 1 is here, theta mu1 is here. So here what would be your new interval of uncertainty?
Lambda 1.
Lambda 1 to
B1.
B.
Now, next time what we will do, suppose case 1 happens. So suppose case 1 happens. So this is my interval of uncertainty. Again, I will put lambda 1 and mu1, lambda 2 and mu2. That is my next iteration. Again, I will do the evaluation, check the conditions, and I will keep ignoring. Like in this case, when you see, when I said theta 1 to mu1, I have ignored this part. I concentrated my search in this one. Then if suppose minimum happens in this side, I will ignore this point. So slowly, I will almost come to an interval of uncertainty, which is very small, in which my solution lies. Does that make sense? But the question is, okay, sorry. Okay, I will start it. Okay, I need some 2-hour extra class for you because there are chances that in the week of 14th February, I may have to travel on 15th. Actually, I will be traveling on from 12th to 15th. So are you guys available on tomorrow afternoon or Saturday, Sunday? Anytime is fine with me. Yes, guys. In lieu, you will not have a class on Tuesday. So I'm not saying that it will be extra. It is just I'm trying to reschedule 2 hours class. Or I can yes, please.
Sir, tomorrow we have our project lab in the evening, afternoon time, sir.
Sir, I teach from 7 to 9 also if you are ready. Had it been IIMs, you will be going to class at 11 to 1. But good thing that is IIT. So tell me, any suitable time, it's fine with me. In fact, even next week, Monday to Thursday, because I'm starting to travel on 11th. So Monday to Thursday, any 2 hours, or you can split it into 1 hours. I just need 2 hours to cover that Tuesday class that I might miss on 15th. It is not that I will miss it, but there are chances that I will miss it. So what time you guys are comfortable? Saturday? 11 to 1?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone have problem from 11 to 1 on Saturday?
Sir, 12 to 2 it will be good.
Many people take lunch between 1 to 2. I'm fine. I take it later. Is 12 to 2 good with you guys?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I am shifting it a little bit, Gaurav. 11:30 to 1:30. It is fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I will schedule a Saturday 11:30 to 1:30 class. I might not take the complete class. I might stop at 1 hour 30 minutes. So that will be really helpful for me if I miss the Tuesday class there. Thank you very much, guys. I will see you on Saturday.
So next class, I'll just try to understand from you how to determine a function is strictly quasi-convex or not.
We have shared the notes, right? We have discussed it, right?
Oh, okay, yes. Okay.
Towards the end of convexity, we have discussed quasi-convex and pseudo-convex.
Yes, we have discussed, but I was thinking whether, yeah, for any function, how to determine whether it is a strictly or not, that thing. Okay, I remember, yes, we discussed.
Wherever, see, between strictly or anything, remember one thing, very, very simple rule. Wherever, suppose greater than equal to or less than equal to, If we remove the equal to, things becomes strict. This is how I understand. If I include equal to, I'm not strict. If I remove equal to from a inequality constraint, it becomes strict.
Yes, sir.
Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much, guys. I will see you on Saturday. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.